Your hosts have earned a reputation as fierce and effective advocates inside and outside of the courtroom. Both partners are experienced trial attorneys who have been board certified in family law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Segall here with the For Better, Worse, or Divorce podcast. We provide tips and insights into Texas family law. So, my name is Ryan Segall. Today, I'm joined by my colleague and partner, Carson Steinbauer. She's one of the partners here in the Dallas office, along with myself. And as part of our series on Texas counties, we're going to discuss different counties in the state of Texas. Today, we're talking about counties in the surrounding DFW area for someone who's going through a family law matter in one of those counties. Just a little bit of background about myself. I've been practicing family law since 2014. I was board certified in 2019, and I have practiced almost exclusively in the DFW area. I've had cases all around the state, but for the most part, the majority of my cases are here in Dallas and the surrounding counties. Carson, talk to the people out there about your background and how you ended up here at Walters Gilbert.
Sure. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for having me. I am just shy of a 30-year lawyer. Wasn't born and raised in Texas, but went to law school here and have been practicing in Texas since graduation and went out and became a prosecutor for a few years, got some trial skills, and then went out into civil practice where I immediately fell in love with family law, and I've been doing it ever since. So, and I, like you, have practiced all throughout the state. I started out in Bexar County down in San Antonio, and I've handled cases again all throughout Texas and Austin. And like you, I live in North Texas now. I've been here for really since 2002. So while I primarily practice in, Collin, Dallas, Denton, uh, Tarrant County, you know, will go anywhere, just like you. So I I love handling family law in all types of cases. And so if you can get me to go out of my regular bubble area, as they say, I enjoy it because I enjoy going to the different courthouses and visiting with all the different judges.
Great. So let's kind of hop into it here and talk to me a little bit about, obviously each county has their nuances and things that each person should know. I guess the biggest thing that I can think of off the top of my head is the associate judges that are in some of the counties and not others. Talk to the people a little bit about those associate judges and kind of what their roles are and which counties they're in.
Sure. Well, in this area, we have Collin and we have Dallas, which are the two largest counties in North Texas. And as everybody knows, many people are moving here just in droves because Texas is a great place to live and very economical. So, Collin County, where I live, we have a relatively new courthouse that's huge right up the road. They are courts of general jurisdiction, however, so they don't have associate judges. Dallas and Tarrant County, um, just down the road from Dallas, because they are the largest counties still in the North Texas area. They have associate judges, which are appointed and I believe handpicked by the senior district judges to serve under them. And primarily they handle um, temporary orders hearings, which as a family lawyer, those are the majority of the everyday hearings that we have. And there's just so many of them that the district judges would get backed up and there would be a big backlog of cases. I mean, I know that there's really a backlog anyway due to COVID, but those associate judges really are hearing the meat of the temporary orders cases, signing agreed orders. Some of them will hear discovery disputes. Maybe most of them do now. The district judges, really are reserved for final trials, um, really serious contested matters, contempt motions, I believe.
The way I always describe it to clients is in those two counties, Dallas and Tarrant counties, that have those associate judges, those associate judges are going to hear anything that's not a permanent thing. That's how I kind of describe it to clients. Now, I do know that you do have the option, if you want to, you can have these associate judges hear a final hearing, such a final trial, something like that. For the most part, most people want those final hearings heard by the district judge. It just, they're the ones that usually hear those final trials, and so unless it's by agreement, most of the time those are going to be heard by those courts. I guess the other thing, when I saw this topic of something that I always thought is interesting around the DFW area, is most courts have what's called standing orders. Tarrant, which is Fort Worth, Tarrant County does not. And Carson, explain a little bit to the people out there about what that means as far as these standing orders, and what you have to do in Tarrant County versus what you have in the other counties.
When you and I started out, which is a long time ago, I think one of the first things that a senior lawyer told me is never go to court without first looking at that court's local rules, because every court has a different set of local rules, whether you're in Tarrant, Travis, Collin, Dallas, whatever. And then because we practice family law, I don't know how many years ago, family courts started coming out with their own little subset of local rules called the family law local rules. And again, each jurisdiction has their own. So, and they have what, as you mentioned, the standing orders, and except for Tarrant. So to start with the other counties that have standing orders, you want to go to the court's website before you have a hearing and look up what those standing orders are. And actually, when a party, husband or wife, files for divorce, for example, the standing orders automatically get attached to the petition. And those standing orders go into effect immediately and are binding on the parties. And they have different things that prohibit the parties from doing certain things until a hearing can be heard. And they're really there to protect the status quo for the parties. So, for example, many of the standing orders will say, do not expend, transfer, hide, secret assets, destroy assets. Don't destroy any social media accounts for yourself, the other party, or for the children.
Are you saying you shouldn't just go around and destroy evidence?
Well, I'm hoping that my clients won't do that, but yes, absolutely. Because we have had occasions, as you know, where some people just don't get the memo and they think, oh, I really don't want my spouse or the court to see me having been in Mexico last week with my paramour, so I may as well delete my Facebook account. And that's a big no-no when those standing orders go into effect.
Carson, I have no idea what you're talking about. No client of mine has ever done that. So.
Well, you haven't been practicing as long as I have, apparently.
Yeah. I think when it comes down to standing orders, I do think it's important to go over them initially basically as soon as you're pulled into the representation, or as soon as somebody files. It is important to go through those and make sure that they know, that the clients know, hey, this is exactly what you can and cannot do, regardless of where you are in the case. As soon as that filing's done, those standing orders attach, and those people are bound by them. Like we were talking about, Tarrant does not have those standing orders. So typically, and I don't know, maybe you've had different experience, but when you file initially in Tarrant County, one party usually requests what's called a temporary restraining order, but not asking for extensive relief. They're just asking for essentially the standing orders from other counties, and that's what they're asking for. And that way, you kind of have a version of the standing orders, but you have to go through a couple more steps to get them. It's not an automatic thing like it is in the other counties.
Correct. But you do have to, as you said, you have to walk over to Tarrant County and walk them through and actually have a judge sign off on it. Whereas the other counties in this area, at least, it's automatic. It has to be attached to the petition once you file the suit. You said, I always encourage my clients to really read through them because they are quite lengthy. And, some of it's self-explanatory. Don't disparage your spouse to the kids, for example. But Dallas, is different, I believe, than the other surrounding counties. Not that anybody would do this, but it even protects the party's pets. Don't harm or secret the pets. So, sometimes people think they can do things. For example, if someone moves out of the house once you file for divorce and they move out voluntarily, somebody may think, oh, I can change the locks on the door. And many of the standing orders say you can't do that without a hearing. So it's very important to read through them line by line and make sure you catch everything and abide by the court's orders.
Yeah, and for the people out there that are watching us on YouTube or listening to us, uh, you don't need to be an attorney to find these standing orders. You can go to like you said, Carson. You can go to the court's website. You can Google standing orders, Rockwall County, and you'll pull them up like that, and so you can see kind of an idea of, hey, this is what is going to be attached to those initial filings. So, talk to me a little bit about, I know this has been a thing since about March of 2020, virtual versus in-person hearings, in these different counties. What's your experience been?
My experience has been once COVID was really behind us, Collin County wanted to open back up and have in-person hearings. The judges up there, and everybody's preference is different. They like to have lawyers and parties in the courtroom. Now, if everyone is in agreement or someone makes a special request, they still do Zoom hearings. But more often than not, when I'm having to go to Collin and Denton for as well, I'm physically in the courthouse. Now, Dallas, they are still, most temporary orders, at least by my experience, yours may be different, but with the judges there, for me, all of my temporary orders hearings have been by Zoom. And I don't have a preference. I mean, I love being in the courtroom and having the feel of it, but the convenience of Zoom, not just for me, but for my clients, who don't necessarily want to take time off of work and travel all the way down to Dallas to the courthouse, for example, find parking, all of that. Zoom has been quite convenient. So I was glad to see that, a lot of the courts, particularly Dallas, still continue on with that after COVID has really gotten behind us.
Yeah, I think it is really a judge specific sort of determination, if you will, as to whether or not it's going to be in person or Zoom. Yeah, because I would say probably about half the courts in Dallas, like you say, are Zoom. I've had other courts, on the other hand, are almost exclusively back to in person in Dallas. I think Dallas is probably the outlier. Most of the other counties, Tarrant, Collin, Denton, Rockwall, most of those other counties are almost 100% in person, unless, like you said, there's some agreement. Um, I know certain judges in in all those counties that will say, hey, if it's an expert or something like that, and we just need them here briefly, we can do a Zoom um, just appearance while everyone else is in the courtroom, what we call a hybrid. Uh, and I think that that's pretty helpful, especially when you don't want to have to pay an expert to come down and, pay a few $1,000s for 5 minutes worth of testimony. I think the Zoom does help on that. So I think there's certainly advantages and disadvantages.
Yes, yes. I agree. I mean, the biggest advantage obviously is the convenience for everyone. And as you said, not having an expert, appear at the courthouse at 9 a.m. and then isn't called to testify until 4:30 in the afternoon. It will save the clients a lot of money if an expert can be called up on Zoom while everybody else is live in the courtroom. One of the downsides is we have to get the clients to give us, we have to prepare and get all of our exhibits ready in advance, because by Zoom, as you know, that typically the exhibits have to be presented to the court reporter and exchanged with the other side early in advance of the hearing, when you're doing it by Zoom. So it can be a little bit more cumbersome that way.
Yeah, and going back to our original topic here is make sure you contact the court coordinator, look at the court's website to figure out what those rules are for Zoom appearances and Zoom hearings, because every court is going to be different. I know some courts that require, 2 business days, which throws me off, because if I have a hearing on Tuesday, I realize that I've actually got to get my exhibits in on Friday. And so that is something to make sure to look at, because other courts will say you just need them an hour beforehand. Just email them to the coordinator or email them to the court reporter. So it's important to make sure you know your judge, you know the court that you're in, because even within each different county, you're going to have different rules and different guidelines on those. I will say this. I recently, I guess it was last week, went to the to Dallas County. They had done a complete overhaul of the electronics there, and now the hybrid Zoom hearings are going to be, hopefully, knock on wood, significantly easier. The technology is very fancy, and it's probably been a long time coming, but I think with COVID